Hello everyone, and welcome back to another part of my Cold War review series. This week we will be looking at Treyarch's latest round-based outing, Mauer der Toten. Revealed alongside Season 4, but hinted at for a long time before then, Mauer is the next big chapter in the Dark Aether storyline. Following the events of Operation Excision, or more commonly known as Outbreak Main Quest No. 2, our strike team is captured by the Omega Group and used by Colonel Kravchenko to help put a stop to Dr. Valentina's plans in Berlin. With that, let's free Klaus, use the blacklight, and ride the rails into Mauer der Toten. Similar to my Funny Base Z review, I'm going to recap what has transpired in the time between maps, and allow me to start with an apology. I know that I said I would review Outbreak, and I still will, but I'm going to wait to review it in its entirety, because I don't quite think that Treyarch is done with it, and the Season 5 roadmap proved me right. With that, I will be ignoring the inclusion of Outbreak and will exclusively focus on changes that affected round-based zombies. Across Seasons 2, 3, and 4, 17 new weapons were added to the game, starting with the FARA 83 Assault Rifle, the LC-10 Submachine Gun, the R1 Shadowhunter Crossbow, Machete Melee Weapon, E-Tool Melee Weapon, ZRG 20mm Sniper Rifle, the PPSH SMG, Swiss K31 Sniper Rifle, Ballistic Knife Special Weapon, Carve 2 Tactical Rifle, AMP-63 Pistol, the Baseball Bat Melee Weapon, C-58 AR, MG82 Light Machine Gun, Nail Gun Special Weapon, OTS-9 Submachine Gun, and the Mace Melee Weapon being our most recent addition. On the side of Score Streaks, the Death Machine found its way into the crafting table for 100 blue salvage. Alongside new weapons, 2 new field upgrades added in Season 2 and Season 3 respectively, Frenzied Guard and Toxic Growth were added. Frenzied Guard, when activated, acts similar to the Now You See Me Gobblegum from Zombies Pass. It attracts all zombies in the vicinity to the player who activated it, and instead of taking health damage, the player with Frenzied Guard takes armor damage if applicable. With Toxic Growth, the player can drop a bushel of vines on the floor with their wand, and when zombies run into it, they take constant damage while in the vines. With the Season 2 update, every perk, weapon class, including the new Launcher and Specials classes, field upgrades, and ammo mod receives Tier 4 and 5 upgrades, making them that much better. On the topic of ammo mods, a new mod called Shatter Blast, created to help combat the armored enemies in the game, was added to zombies with the Season 2 update. Also with Season 2, several things I talked about in my Funny Base Z review were changed, including the FOV issue on Xbox, Orda was buffed to scale with the rounds properly, and the railing skip in the spawn room was patched in a very similar way to the shield glitch on Dead of the Night in Black Ops 4. With the launch of Season 3, weapon unlock challenges found their way into zombies, keeping us zombies players away from them pesky multiplayer challenges, unless in cases like the OTS where the challenge is just objectively better in multiplayer. Then, Season 3 Reloaded, several things happened. First, every weapon in zombies received a major buff in some way, ranging from ammo boost to straight up mega buffs in their headshot/damage multiplier. And I would detail all of that, but it was literally for every gun, so I'm going to just have to leave it out for the sake of time. Cranked 2, No Time to Crank, was added with the 80s Action Heroes event, which improved many aspects of Cranked from Season 1. Also in this update, all of the latest weapons were added to the mystery box for players to earn in-game, and my personal favorite addition, the wand animation and field upgrade activation were separated as to save the player from all those bullshit downs because your field upgrade didn't activate fast enough. The final thing to note in this update, the health cap was increased from 30,000 to 120,000. This was an insane overstep in my opinion, and lasted for about 2 months. But Treyarch, being themselves, came in clutch, and with the Season 4 Reloaded update, rolled back the health changes to 60,000, and leaving the weapon buffs to help combat the undead. Dynamic wall buys were added to all 3 round-based maps. At the end of every 5th round, each wall buy on the map has the potential of going up a rarity all the way to Legendary. And that, stacked with the new ability to apply your own custom blueprints in the middle of the game, makes it even more exciting. Something I would also like to add. At some point with either the Season 3 Reloaded or Season 4 updates, the exfil on Funny Base was changed to include not only more enemies, but also the special enemy types of the Mimic and the Mangler. A new perk made its way to zombies, Mule Kick. Much like Tombstone, it was mixed with multiple perks from Zombies Pass, including Vulture and Bandolier Bandit. Mule Kick not only gives you 3 weapons now, it also has an equipment feature to it as well, with upgrades like being able to get 2 craftable items for the price of 1, and the ability for non-retrievable crafted items to have a chance of not being used when thrown is amazing. Both support weapons, i.e. the Death Machine, Combat Bow, etc., and lethal equipment have received buffs in the Season 4 Reloaded update, making them that much more viable to fight the undead. Fans of OG Ether might recognize this addition. The LT-53 Casimir was added to the tactical menu for 2,000 green salvage. A black hole grenade a la Gersh device that the player can craft and carry one of can be used on all round-based maps and Outbreak. And finally, across Firebase Z, Outbreak, and Maurid or Toten, 255 pieces of collectible intel, that's not including Onslaught intel, were added, pushing the Dark Ether story to new and exciting heights. With that, we're all caught up and ready to dig into Maurid or Toten. So let's begin where every map begins, the infill sequence. Kravchenko drops us off on a rooftop in a helicopter with a goal and a threat. Find Dr. Valentina and her hidden army, and should we fail, poor Raptor 1 will be bled dry. So it's up to Strike Team to save him. Upon touching ground and fully loading in, the player is immediately hit with a callback to World at War, which I really love. A reorchestrated track of Eviction from World at War plays over the first round and cuts off to allow for the next best thing, the new command crew to talk. Headed by Colonel Lev Kravchenko and accompanied by Gorev, Kravchenko's right-hand man, Dr. William Peck, missing his eye from our last encounter in Vietnam, and Dr. Jaeger, the traitor who put us in this trap in the first place. These three, along with Kravchenko, are genuinely hilarious, because their quotes are just constantly berating us. Peck makes fun of us for having the opposite of Midas's touch, Jaeger comments on how we as Americans have a hoarding issue, and Gorev just plain calls us stupid sometimes. You then notice that, like D Machina, you have a choice. Two ziplines present themselves, attached to two separate buildings. Should you take the zipline next to Tombstone? What the hell? This got the biggest laugh out of me on launch, because you don't expect a perk like Tombstone to just be sitting in the spawn room. Anyways, take the zipline near Tombstone and it takes you to the hotel building, which is lit purely by the fires spread everywhere and the constant burning of flares on the ground. This is where a new and very much appreciated feature steps in. You have the ability to toggle your flashlight on or off, something I think D Machina really missed out on. Should you be daring enough, the only thing lighting your path would be the small glow of your Ember sighting point, or whatever flashlight you use, the fires and flares that dot the buildings in Berlin, and the light glow of the eyes of the undead. Should you travel on the other zipline, you won't be taken very far indoors. Instead, to the top of a destroyed penthouse, which has another zipline that takes you to the roof of the Korber garment factory, seen in the campaign mission Brick in the Wall. You'll pass Speed Cola and reach the street level, and this is something I love about this map, the layout. Like all Zombies maps, you are forced down a singular path to turn on the power and such, but in this map, you are given reign to traverse not just the street level, but a majority of the buildings as well. On the east side of the map, each building is connected by both standard zip lines and points from the street level to rappel up. While on the west side, since the buildings are one room only, there are single rappel points, and the wall is entirely missing in these rooms to allow for players to jump out back to the safety of the street level. Upon hitting the ground level in East Berlin, you encounter our first Outbreak crossover, the Tempest. These Tempests appear mostly docile, thank God, and upon death drop one fuse to be used for the power switch. You can also enter a few of the buildings that have been ravaged by the undead, including the bar where Bell met the CIA contact in the campaign, and a nearby electronics store. When you enter the subway station, you are greeted by the terrifying screams of the dead, while two hellish train cars zoom through the subway. Kravchenko laments the idea of you getting railed. Get it? You've come so far, Requiem, why die now? As you move into the rest of the subway, you pass the updated meal kick machine, which we'll talk about in a bit. Before entering the power room, you can enter an underground CIA safe house under the West Berlin streets. You've officially moved beyond the Iron Curtain. In this safe room, you encounter a robot chained to a chair and several boards with pictures of the Requiem team asking just who the hell they are and why they sent them this robot. When you flip the power switch, it shuts down as the fuses are bad. Classic German engineering, am I right? Depending if you open through the train control room or the sewers, the other Tempests required to obtain the fuse will spawn on the opposite side. Upon retrieving this fuse, you can turn on the lights, and you'll notice that the elemental pop machine is back. After its slight hiatus in the jungles of Vietnam and its absence along with its brethren in the Ural Mountains, it's nice to see it make a return. And I love the fact that all 8 perk machines are featured on this map. It's so nice to see things like Deadshot and Elemental return physically. As you return to the street side, this time on the west side of Berlin, you find that it is in slightly better shape, but the disgusting cultural barrier that was the Berlin Wall has been toppled by the undead, and the only thing left in its wake is the Pack-a-Punch. Though, in our next Outbreak crossover, you have to prove yourself to unlock it. On both sides of the Pack-a-Punch area is No Man's Land, guarded by 2 auto-turret towers, which will target both the player and zombies unless purchased by the player. The area is meant to deter East and West Berliners from crossing. In these areas, a la Origins, there are dig sites. Thankfully, no shovel you'll forget in the spawn room required, which reward the player with salvage, equipment, armor, and the usual stuff. However, one dig site specifically will reward the player with a satellite dish, which we will see use with later. Once you feel ready enough, you can activate the Pack-a-Punch. A voiceover from the Forsaken plays as the zombies frozen in time above you come to life, and you are introduced to our new enemy type, the Disciple. Similarly to both the Chaos Water Elementals and everyone's favorite Nova 6 bomber, the Disciples buff zombies' health when near them. However, they float above the horde, and in some cases will fly straight at you to attack and drain your health. This is an incredibly welcome gameplay balance, as it gives the player a chance to target them and return to the zombie killing after. This little sequence, while short, is a perfect way to introduce the players into the gameplay loop of the Disciples and how to deal with them. Upon using Requiem's essence charges to destroy a toppled-over tower, you have come full circle and once again rejoined East and West Berlin, in a small sense at the very least. So, with that recap out of the way, let's really dig into what I love about this map. Starting with, as I mentioned, the layout. This map keeps it simple as I mentioned above, but still gives the player the choice to go and move how and where they want. There are multiple ways to traverse the map that always leave options, even in a tense situation. The rooftops connected by ziplines are fantastic and give off these really good Indiana Jones escape vibes when you are being chased and you make it to the zipline just in time. In terms of gameplay, like the other Cold War maps, this map lends itself beautifully to both playstyles of camping or training. Should you find yourself wanting to run, say, Toxic Growth or Ring of Poggers, there are spots just for you. You can book a stay in room 305 with the safe and vibe. You can leave the door from the subway station to power close and camp up against that. Or, feeling risky, you can camp in the Wonder Fizz or, alternatively, the room across from it in West Berlin. And should you feel inclined to fight to run away, there are areas like both the East and West Berlin streets, the sewers right outside Power, the End Station Lab opened via the Easter egg, and even the spawn roof is really good. But in order to survive, you need some serious firepower, right? Well, look no further than the latest from Requiem's R&D division, the Conversion-Ready Binary Repeater Standard, Cerberus for short. Yes, Cerberus like the dog. This pistol is fully automatic and features a companion orb that not only matches your firing power with each shot, but also features the voice of Strauss, Carver, or Dr. Gray, who will make some very hilarious comments during gameplay based on how you're killing them, and even if you haven't used the Wonder Weapon in a few rounds, it'll sound like you left them. This Wonder Weapon, while also able to be upgraded at the Uberspregen, can be modified using 3 weapon kits found by killing zombies randomly, similarly to the Kraken Elemental upgrades featured on Voyage of Despair. The first is the Diffuser, which turns the Cerberus into a shotgun that fires a horizontal flechette of 5 rounds. The Blazer, which mods the gun into an assault rifle that shoots a concentrated essence of energy, and the Swarm, a hand cannon mod that shoots multiple missiles from it with an additional lock-on feature. In a weird turn of events, the standard Cerberus is actually the best, but the mod kits all serve their own purpose. What's really nice about these upgrades is that upon picking them up, the ammo staved in the standard Cerberus is stored away, and the variants use their own ammo pools, meaning upon running the variants dry of ammo, you will revert back to the OG version and go right back to the fun. Also, a good thing to note, each variant of the Cerberus is colored differently on the floor, as to make it easier to spot. So just how do you obtain this funny new weapon? Well, viewer, I'm glad you asked, because there are a few ways, just like all the other Wonder Weapons in Cold War. There are the obvious trials you can complete for a chance, you can play roulette with everyone's favorite wooden box, or you can complete its small quest to obtain it. And this is a perfect segue into the next thing. Remember that robot I mentioned earlier in the CIA safe house? Well, why don't I let him introduce himself?
Hello, I am Klaus. I am here to help you. It is in my program.
As he stated, he is Klaus, Requiem's latest, a self-aware cyborg with fantastic quotes. As I said, he's self-aware, meaning he knows he's just a robot, but as all self-aware robots do, he just wants to know who made them. He has a lot of quotes about how humans are fleshy and weak, but he also has quotes about being ordered around, which just make me laugh every time. In order to restore Klaus after he was dismantled by the CIA team, you must retrieve a battery and his hands. You can obtain the battery by our next Outbreak crossover, The Return of the Krasny Soldat. In order to obtain the hands, you must use the Submissive and Breedable Ammo mod to open room 305 and retrieve the hands off the lifeless corpse of Agent Rico. Poor bastard. Upon repairing Klaus, you can complete several actions with him, which includes obtaining the Black Light, opening a brick wall for the Easter egg, again, more on that later. You can use his controller, which takes your tactical slot while he's active, to make places for him to move around, which was much needed for these AI types in previous entries, and also retrieving floppy disk to upgrade Klaus. But back to the Wonder Weapon for the time being, now that we've met Klaus. Using the Black Light, there are 3 areas: the Garment Factory, the Service Tunnel, and the Bar, which feature codes on the walls with invisible ink that are numbers to use on the safe in room 305. And in said safe is the free Wonder Weapon. Now we can go back to Klaus and his upgrade. Upon getting about 45 kills with Klaus, you can use his controller to send him to the station in the Garment Factory, and with that satellite dish from earlier, you can use it to upgrade him. When he walks into the station, you have to defend him for 1 minute, and all zombies will track to him. Should you fail, you have to redo the process on the following round. When the 1 minute timer finishes, Klaus will step off the device and being a changed man, robot man. He will have a single upgraded XM4, and a bit more effective in terms of killing. He has 2 more upgrades which you can find using the Black Light on these power boxes around the map. There are about 6 of them, and 2 of them each game will have a secret Klaus head next to them. Upon Klaus breaking these open, you can grab the floppy disk and take him back to the station, and he will self-upgrade, packing his gun once again and changing his appearance. The first disc makes him an emo rocker, and his personality matches, and upgrades his gun to Pack 2. And the second floppy disk fully upgrades the XM4 and makes him look like a punk rocker. I should also note that the first floppy disk also gives him the Deadwire ammo mod. Speaking of upgrades, this map features new Pack-a-Punch camos, something I thought wouldn't happen, but it did, and I am so glad that they did it. These camos are really flashy and are just breathtaking. Now, let's discuss the latest perk to enter the roster of perks, Mule Kick. Found in the subway station, and having really stepped into the old Western theme, Mule Kick makes its return to Cold War with a really big step as well. This perk has come a long way from just being about able to carry 3 weapons. It has taken a more equipment-based focus and allows the player to not only save their salvage by having a 2-for-1 deal on the crafting table, it also gives the player a 25% chance to save their non-retrievable equipment, so basically everything but tomahawks and C4. And so basically you'll throw it and it won't take a charge. After that, the LT-53 Casimir rears its head in every round-based zombies map. Each player can hold 1 Casimir, and upon being thrown sucks all the zombies in the area, including special enemies. This is such a good alternative to help clear a room and give the player space to do what they need to do. Similarly to my Funny Base Z review, I want to highlight the wall selection on this map, because it really got diversified with all types of weapons, with new things like the KSP or the Pellington, or how about the fact that both shotguns feature on the wall. Interestingly, there is no purple wall buy this time around, highest being blue, but thanks to dynamic wall buys, this can change fairly quickly if luck is on your side. Also, similar to my Funny Base review, I love the fact that there are multiple mannequin stations and crafting tables around the map, removing the need to crowd a few spots on the map. There's one in basically every major area, which is super duper nice. I talked about the Disciples earlier, but I left out the other new enemy type, the Tormentors. These dog-like enemies are crystalline creatures led by Dr. Valentina herself, and like I said, function as this map's Plaguehound ground. These enemies, while super easy to deal with, also blow up when in proximity with the player, and without armor can do a hefty amount of damage. Both of these enemies are really good to freshen up the enemy pool. Also on this map, the Manglers make their return after appearing on Funny Base and in the Ural Mountains. They start spawning in at about round 25 on this map. The exfil in this map is also really good, featuring all the enemy types on the map, and even if you can clear it with 1 Casimir and a little bit of work, it is still really effective to make you work to win the game. Another small thing about this exfil is the fact that Kravchenko always bashes you for wanting to exfil. As opposed to where Weaver encouraged the team to leave even in cases where the mission wasn't completed, Kravchenko lets you know that even if you leave the mission, it isn't over and you'll be back. Finally, before I dive into the main quest and story, allow me to look at the many side quests in this map. Starting with, as I mentioned, Klaus's upgrades, the free Wonder Weapon, in our next Outbreak crossover, and probably my favorite one, the Ether Tool side Easter egg, where the player must complete a shootout a la Buried to receive an Ether Tool. The latest addition to the long list of bunny eggs, this time Mr. Peak takes us backstage to his super private and invitation-only nightclub, the White Rabbit. In this, you listen to some really good music and fight 3 waves of ones as dead as disco. Upon finishing wave 3 on time, if you don't, you are sent back to the map and given a max ammo, a carpenter, and a bonus points. You are given a Wheel of Fortune choice to pick between 3 random doors. These doors, when opened, can carry one of 4 rewards: a standard medium chest, a normal large chest, a golden chest, and the best reward, a gold chest, but also featuring a free Cerberus. During this picking the door segment, you also get to listen to an instrumental version of Right Where We Belong, which was featured not only on Game Show and Cold War's multiplayer, but also the song in the Voyage intro if you didn't know. What's really cool about this Easter egg is specifically in the fact that 15 rounds after you go in the first time, you can actually do it again. So you can theoretically do this as many times as you want to get the rewards you want. With those out of the way, we can finally delve into the story of this map, and the main quest. Following our strike team's capture on the night of December 14th, 1984, Requiem strike team is held as prisoners by Omega for about 2 months, meaning they probably had a banger Christmas with Kravchenko holiday special. During this time, Requiem battled with what to do, but the director of Requiem took a very noticeable interest to a situation brewing in the heart of the Cold War, Berlin, going so far as to take both Klaus and the Cerberus and send them into the field at the behest of the rest of the team. In the lead up to February 2nd, Omega learns of its ultimate betrayal. Valentina, who had seemed so loyal to their cause, had gone behind the group's back and used one of their portal designs to open a portal to the Dark Ether. Back during World War II, when the Reich began to realize it was over, Dr. Vogel and the group had devised a plan to travel across time and hopefully one day strike back and revive the Reich. This was labeled Operation Balder. And as Vogel and his men traveled into the Dark Ether, it was the last time he would see his daughter Angelica Vogel. At the end of the war, Dr. Kurtz was put in charge of watching young Angelica. Having been caught by the Soviets, however, Kurtz made a bargain. He would give up the locations of his Nazi associates in return for the safety of himself and his surrogate daughter. While Angelica, now renamed Alexandra Valentina, grew up, she saw visions of her father, and he told her of her glorious purpose to save him, to somehow reopen the portal and bring back the Reich. Valentina worked diligently through her adult life to find a way to do it, and it manifested itself when she found the end station tape and took it to Kravchenko. The incident that started this all was a betrayal at heart. On February 2nd, Kravchenko sends in the conscript unit to destroy Valentina and her army. What Valentina failed to realize is that it was never her father talking to her. She had been fooled by the Forsaken, previously named the One. The Forsaken is the entity in the Dark Ether pulling the strings, and Valentina was his ticket to our world, to envelop and eventually destroy. With that in mind, Strike Team was put to work. Using Klaus to knock down a wall and using the Blazer variant to melt the door open, you find the end station lab hidden in Berlin. The game will start an auto Tormentor round, after which you can pick up the essence canisters from a modified inversion warhead. Something I really enjoy about this part specifically is, say you have Gorev as your command crew. Upon reaching this part specifically, Peck will actually step in and direct the player narratively to what they're doing, which is really neat. Gorev wouldn't know that they could make an inversion warhead on the fly, but Peck does. He's the one who made it. With the essence canisters and the Tempest lure in hand, the player must find 3 essence holders and place the containers in them. Then you throw the Tempest lure and kill the Tempest near it. Again, these ones appear to be slightly docile. After killing them and letting it charge for a second, you can take the Ethereum canisters to the warhead. With all 3 placed, all that's left is to obtain some uranium. However, that is a bit harder than it sounds. Thankfully, using the Cerberus and some scavenged parts, you can craft a hacking headset so Klaus can break into the CIA mainframe and access the Operation Threshold laser. But first, you need a keycard with clearance to even get into the mainframe. So, with that in mind, what you do is change the tracks, and like a badass, use Klaus to stop a moving train, to hop aboard and find not only the keycard you need, but also the fate of the agents that were sent in to stop this in the first place. With the keycard in hand and the hacker headset, you can breach the CIA mainframe and spawn not only an HVT Megaton, but also its edgy friends, the HVT Mimics. fully rounding out Cold War's enemy list, minus the dogs, thank God. With live uranium just sitting there, your crew, Peck, laments the fact that in the Ural Mountains, they had tools to combine the uranium. But you have a bit of a janky method of doing it. With a timer guiding your pace, you place both pieces of uranium on the ends of the zipline from the penthouse to the Korber building, and when they collide, they create purified uranium. Placing this in the bomb is good, but it's not enough, so you repeat this and enter the boss fight. Valentina comes out of the Dark Ether in her final form, a being made of crystals like the Tormentors. This fight is masterfully done, and while Valentina isn't much of a threat, if you aren't paying attention, she can be. She has a few attacks, one of which is similar to the Keeper from Dreisendrach, in which if you are in her line of sight, she will drop you, or drop you down to 1 HP with Jug Tier 5. She can also heal herself by summoning zombies and sucking their essence. You can combat this by simply shooting and killing the floating zombies near her. This boss fight actually moves around, which is really nice. Think like the Eye from Voyage of Despair. There are 4 arenas total. The End Station Lab, which you fight in there twice, the East and West Berlin streets, and the penthouse. Upon doing a loop, you return to the End Station Lab for the final fight. Upon killing her, you use her to open the Dark Ether portal and charge the Inversion Warhead. Klaus realizes this was his purpose from Langley and offers to sacrifice himself. Guarded by the player, he walks into the portal and proceeds to deliver the most relatable line in all of Call of Duty Zombies. Kravchenko finally tells the team that they have successfully completed their mission and they have saved the princess, Raptor 1. However, not without some strings attached. He cannot allow them to live and attempts to kill them in his helicopter. Weaver and Maxis come over the radio to give the team some instructions. The team runs to the rooftops, and right as Kravchenko is about to kill them, a portal opens up behind them, and it is revealed that Maxis is back at Requiem HQ, opening the portal for them to come through. Weaver and Fluffy 2 come for Maxis as she nearly passes out, and she looks up at a camera. The camera zooms out to reveal the director of Requiem watching them. He takes a sip from his mug, obviously inspired by Michael Scott from The Office, and looks at a memo. It reveals that Operation Janus is ready to go, and that he may have issues in the form of Maxis. He says that her powers are growing. What an end cutscene. The director finally gets a slight reveal, someone who's eluded us for about 2.5 seasons, and through the intel we learn that the reason Klaus kills the CIA team in Berlin is because they were asking questions about Operation Janus, which they accidentally found out about on the CIA mainframe. No loose ends, I suppose. And, as usual, the final point for the good of this map is the music. Sadly, I can't play the Easter egg song Amoeba by the Adolescents because it's copyright as fuck, but while it might not be a certified Kevin Sherwood banger, it is still super funny to see in a Zombies map. On the other side, several tracks made by Brian Tooley and company can be obtained in the music player simply by just being near them, such as Berlin 1985 and Wrath. With all of that, we can finally move on to the bad after the break. Bunny! After that gigantic mouthful, let's get into what I think didn't necessarily work in this map, and I promise, just like the other entries in Cold War, we won't be here very long. Starting with my genuine issues with the map, the Cerberus variants, specifically the diffuser, are pretty garbage. And it's such an easy fix too. While it's a shotgun and its rounds are quite strong, it doesn't have any penetration power, meaning it's really only good if you've got like a stray zombie in front of you. Next, why does Jaeger look like Elon Musk with a slanted face? Like, this man scares me for reals. I might never be able to sleep right again after looking at this guy. You might have noticed I left out the auto turret trap in the good, and that's for good reason, because while I think it's a cool addition, it's ultimately useless. You never find yourself out there in no man's land, so you just never really see it used. And if I'm being really honest, that's it for the stuff I have issues with. As for nitpicks, I've got 2. The Casimir blends in with Semtex's when on the floor. I literally cannot tell you how many times I have looked at a Semtex and my brain screws with me thinking it's a Casimir. And my other one is the Casimir salvage price. On high rounds, this is less of an issue because there is such an abundance of green salvage, but 2,000 is really steep in the early rounds. I almost feel like it should have been 1750 if they really wanted it to keep it close to the monkey bombs. And that's it. No, seriously, I have nothing else here. I really love this map. So with that, let's wrap this up. And with that, we have reached the end of my Mauerger Toten review. I hope you enjoyed this video, as always, and be sure to let me know what you guys liked or disliked. As for what comes next, I'm hoping to return to my IW Zombies reviews. However, I do also have to celebrate hitting 300 followers on Twitter.com by playing Exo Zombies. So, we'll see what I realistically do first. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.
In their tongue, he is Dovahkiin, Dragonborn.